Yo, what's going on in the hood? Hope you guys have a good evening. It's been a wild start to 2021. The stock market's getting crushed. And finally, we have some new developments in the cryptocurrency world. So want to talk to you guys about kind of where Bitcoin is looking to go and are there any potential plays, both on the short side and maybe what we are looking for on the bounce side as things are going to get, things are starting to get a little bit exciting. We've been stuck in a range for, really a month. So since the beginning of December, we've been stuck in this range, and range trading is the worst. When you're stuck in a range, like nothing on the long side really works because, the market will pop up for like a day and then the altcoins will start to like pop up also with it. And then, you run into resistance and they get smacked down. And then you're thinking like, okay, maybe it's a short. And then, right, if you short on the bottom and while you're stuck in this tight range, then the next day, like everything starts to bounce and you get essentially just spin cycled. And that's like the worst spot to be in. The spin cycle of despair in trading is the worst. It's like you buy high, you sell low, then you short low, and then you end up covering high. And it just happens like over and over. And that's really what's been going down for like a month, and I hate this kind of trading. Like, you give me a trend up or down, but like when you're stuck in the box, there's nothing to do. All right. Now, the interesting part of today was, and this coincided with the Fed coming out, we had Fed minutes at 2 p.m. and the stock market took a huge blumkin like right around that time. And then, lo and behold, the crypto market started to really it started to peak out, started to speed up around, I would say noon, and then around 1 o'clock, like you started to see really some action. And this level that had been holding here on Bitcoin finally dumped off, and you ended up getting this, monster flush. I wouldn't say monster, right? But like 10%, give or take. But what ended up happening is it takes the altcoins down so much farther than those. And so, we've been short in our crypto room, Sol, and I got some BNB right now. These are the same setups as Bitcoin. I just find they give a little bit more oomph, a little bit cleaner play. So we're in on these things short, but if we're really looking at like where Bitcoin can go and like what it's going to do, this is where things get like super tricky because we've cracked some support here. Now, we have more layers of support. The question becomes, I think, is this a risk-off market? Meaning the U.S. stock market has been in a bear market for really the last couple months. If you look at the U.S. stock market, for the last couple months, we've been in a bear market. So even though the indexes have been holding up here, you can see like this is the QQQs, we've had like kind of like a giant, massive rollover that's been slowly happening. Now, even though the indexes have been holding up in the U.S. market, individual tech stocks have been getting crushed. And what I'm talking about is like momentum names that are growth oriented, that represent risk in the markets. And so, when you think of risk in the markets, you're thinking of like recent IPOs and things of that nature. So like stocks like, growth stocks like UPST and Affirm, so many of these have been getting crushed. And so that's telling you, even though the indexes are holding up, and that's mainly because of Tesla and Apple and Microsoft, there has been a risk-off period in the stock market that's been happening really since November. And that kind of coincides with really the topping of the Bitcoin market itself. So if you're looking at, kind of when Bitcoin started to make its rollover over here, you can see it's really kind of coming around that same time in November where the risk market is off. So there's a couple of headwinds that are happening here. The Fed is going to probably be raising interest rates at some point. They are taking money out of the system. It's called tapering. And so that represents a little bit of risk off in the markets, in the stock market. And it looks like it's carrying over into the cryptocurrency. I know for a lot of you like blockchain kind of tech guys that are believers, that doesn't really matter. Like, it's more like, okay, is this stuff getting used, so on and so forth. But in terms of like trading, this totally matters. This is what impacts markets, both on the stock side and the crypto side. for months and months at a time. Long term, of course, it's the progress of the systems, but short term, it's really just about sentiment and supply and demand. So now that we've kind of broke under this support, it's like we have to start thinking like, where can we go and what are like some logical bounce spots? And the issue that becomes is like we don't have a huge level of support to really base it off because we just broke under the 200-day moving average. And so like, we have kind of a $40,000 support here. And if it doesn't hold there, then we're really kind of looking at this level over here, which is like from 28 to 36 is the next zone of demand that we really will have to keep an eye out for. So in the meantime, though, if Bitcoin is going to drop, let's say anywhere from 40,000 down to 28,000, and we suction down in, what does that mean for the rest of the coins? Like the shit coins you like to trade, I like to trade, right? Your KuCoin leverage, holy crap coins, and then your mid alts like Solana and Ethereum and so on and BNB. What does this mean for all these? Well, if Bitcoin drops into those levels, I mean, we're really talking about, a 30, 40, 50% haircut probably on some of these names. So ideally, like, we do a lot of double lutsies in Bitcoin, meaning like you kind of break down and then you rip back, and ideally, maybe we spike down into this like 40,000 range on a big wick, and that could probably get some buying going for a handful of times. But in the moment, like you have to consider this a bear market. Since November, every bounce, 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 bounce. Sorry, that's not Darth Vader ringtone, I swear. Every bounce has been getting faded off for quite some time. And I think what's masked it is that we had a period with the meta coins that really made us think like, hey, we're still like in a really hot market because, all these meta coins like Galax and, these things got so hot in November that, it kind of masked like really what happened. But, these things peaked out too and during Thanksgiving time. So like, this is like a month and a half later, like these things got a long way to come down. So this is like a risk off market. I think, at this point, and this is what we've been doing in our crypto chat room, we take selective longs. Like if we see something that's like a mean reversion trade or a relative strength trade, but otherwise, like you really want to be kind of leaving this stuff alone and shorting on the bounces. Like, I think that's like the big thing, to be really mindful of. So if you think of like, even on Ethereum, if we go into Ethereum over here, this is going to be like, we've got so much room to, potentially fall. But the thing with Ethereum is like, you're really sitting on the support here at 3,400. So we do have a little bit of a mixed bag. If this ends up holding and you can see like it likes to bounce off this 200-day moving average, then we may be able to get some juice in the market for a temporary bounce. But lower high, lower high, lower high, lower high, lower high, lower high. So till this period of lower highs really breaks, you have to consider yourself in a bear market minus a handful of 1 or 2 day bounces that may be coming into the market. And I know it kind of stinks because it seems like a lot of times when new traders get into the market ends up shitting at itself. And then like, right, everybody's like, what am I supposed to do? Hey, this is a good time to just build out watch lists, build out your wish list of names that you think you'd love to own when this kind of fluctuation is going. Because, we've seen this with Bitcoin all the time. Almost anytime it peaks out, it drops in half. And then, it starts to pick up some steam later on. And it just takes time to heal these things. Like you could see this range that happened in the summertime. I mean, it went on for months. Like this is like from May to August. Like it just sat around being a little bit of a shitter. And then, it starts to pick up steam. And that's probably what will happen at some point. We may have to come back down, but that's okay. Like, at some point, those things are going to be. So like what I want to be looking at, in terms of bounce, I want to be thinking about the names that were the hottest of the last, let's say, week or two, if the market starts to gain some traction, because those are the relative strength names. So like Adams, even though the market's been failing, the Atom has went from 20 to 45 in really like a matter of 2 weeks, and it ran right into resistance, right? This is why you can never chase into resistance, especially on extended names. because they'll come and roll over. But like this is a name that I think is worth watching if the market starts to gain some traction, maybe at 40, maybe at 36, because of this run right here. You know, CRV was another one that, you know, we've been playing in the chat room. Eric, my business partner, loves this name. But like this thing goes from 350 in the last couple of weeks to $7, 100% move. Like this is also another relative strength name. Luna is another relative strength name. This has been in a monster trend all year. Like I'd love to get a big dip on this thing. You know, you can see it goes from 7 to 100. Now, if you look at Luna, like where it likes to get some traction, this 50-day moving average is really like always a spot where, at least in this last run, it likes to get a little bit of juice. So, you know, to retrace from 100, maybe down to like 65, 68, you know, maybe a little bit lower, that could be a good location too. The big thing with cryptos is you don't want to step in front of the train, right? Make your watch list and go with it. But I'm thinking like, you know, these three are good relative strength names. You got Atom, CRV, you've got Luna, and then my like longer term, you know, wish list is, you know, trying to get some of these meta coins, but they're up a lot, right? So like, you know, like something like this Sand or something, you know, it's going to take a long time to heal. But, you know, ideally, like if you could get this thing down into 3 or even the 2s, like that would be pretty hot. Like that's when you can get like these kind of longer term plays. You know, another one that I really like that's been a good trender and a good trader for us, it loves to bounce off this 200-day moving average, is Atom. So like if this thing can get down in about 160, I'd set an alert right there. It seems to love to get traction right around that level, almost since the beginning of its run. That's going to be another one that could have some heat on it. So like add Atom to your watch list. You know, I'd love to, you know, we took a huge shred on Mana this year, you know, from this run over here and then this secondary run. And now like this thing is peaked out. This is an ugly looking chart. If you didn't know what this was, then, you know, this would be like, you'd be like, oh, this is a head and shoulders or a rollover. So I think this one also, like it's got room to fall. First of all, I wouldn't mind actually taking some shorts in this. I was looking at this over here, but it's just so damn slow, right? As it's consolidating. But this might be worth actually some shorts in this. And then, you know, as this thing comes back, like back and fills some of this range here. I mean, you get this thing back in the $1.50, $2 range. It's really not that far. Like you may look at it at $3 and say like, oh, you know, it's never going to get there. They get there fast. Like when the market starts to dip, if Bitcoin's at 35, 38,000, like this thing will be at probably $1.50. You know, so I think that's like another longer term one that I think we want to be, you know, really looking into. And then, you know, I'll be watching this Sol. Sol hasn't tested its 200-day moving average since this summer in July when it was on a little bit of a bear market. And it dipped down to 200-day moving average at 23. It hasn't tested it down into that level in some time. Let's watch this one around 130, 130, 132. Currently, I'm shorting every bounce in this one. Also, I think, you know, once we get back down into these levels here, then, you know, that's going to be something to really watch. Now, the big hairy butt, right? So there's always a butt when we're looking at making moves in these markets. The big hairy butt of this is if the Fed starts to raise interest rates and do all this kind of shenanigans, and the U.S. market just gets smoked out, which it very well could, we don't really know. Does that spill over into the cryptos on a longer term basis as it becomes just a risk off type of thing? Like kind of in the coronavirus, right? When the coronavirus hit, you know, Ethereum, Bitcoin, like they all were getting so nailed because it was just a risk off kind of event, you know, in the markets, the world, whatever, you know, like everything was rolling over. So that was something like, you know, Ethereum got to $100, right? And will it ever get back to $100? No, most likely not. But like, you know, that's something we have to be aware of. If the US market does get shemangled, does it become a risk off thing or not? But at the moment, all we can do is watch our levels, keep shorting the bounces till we get down into such a level where we can do nothing but buy, right? And so make your wish list. This stuff passes and never lasts that long. We're already really on like month 2 of the bear market in crypto anyways. If you really think like how long they last, 3, 4, 5 months, sometimes we're already halfway through. More likely we're even more than halfway through but you never know. So keep an eye on these levels, and then let's see like what's going on around there. But in the meantime, make wish lists, keep shorting into the pops. For a lot of you guys that don't, have brokers and stuff that you can short or exchanges, you can use KuCoin. You can even do like what I do in my Thinker Crap, Thinker Swim, Thinker Crap. I'll short BTC futures, Ethereum futures, and they have micro futures contracts, which is like 1/10 of a Bitcoin future contract. So you kind of scale in and out, and they cost a lot less margin and stuff. You can do with like a couple $1,000. That's like a really easy way to get exposure on the short side to Bitcoin and Ethereum. If you want to be shorting them, I use the micro futures contracts all the time. But when I'm like doing like shit coins and stuff, I just go with the KuCoin. But guys, hopefully that helps. So let me know if you guys have any questions. And we have a on-demand crypto course, which you guys are all welcome to take a look at. And then I'm trading my chat room all the time, so you guys are more than welcome to join us. It's a free chat room, so come on and hang out. But guys, stay safe, stay fun. See you when I see you.